Hello and welcome to this video about critical thinking. I am your host, OMRTRE, and I will be helping you on your journey to understand critical thinking. Now, critical thinking is an abstract concept. We can't really understand it by defining it, but more so really engaging with it by practicing it. Even then, I will give you a definition of critical thinking. Critical thinking is simply just asking a series of questions to get to a core solution or understanding of a problem. Now, how do we critically think? I'll engage you, the viewer, in an example with my assistant, Jim, and we will be engaging in a questionnaire of sorts using one of many methods to critically think. The fishbone method will be asking a series of 5 questions in order to get to the solution of our problem. Now, Jim, are you ready? I sure am too. Now, Jim, your clock has been running behind. I'm sorry about that. I also noticed that you've been late to work. Now, why have you been late to work?
I woke up late.
Oh, wow. You woke up late. So, I have to ask, why did you wake up late?
Well, I slept past my alarm.
Oh my goodness, you slept past your alarm. What are some of the reasons you slept past your alarm?
Maybe I didn't get enough sleep.
Huh. Okay. You haven't been getting enough sleep. Now, we're getting closer. I have to ask, why haven't you been getting enough sleep?
I have been going to bed late.
All right, we're on to something. Okay, when did you go to bed?
Past midnight.
Oh, wow, I don't expect you to wake up that early if you go to bed that late. I'm on to something. We're hot. Out of all the things you could be doing, how could you be sacrificing sleep? What could have been more important than sleep?
Drax, you've got me. I'll come clean. I was busy plotting my plan to take over ES-13.
Huh. So there we have it. We've solved our critical thinking quandary by asking a series of questions. Now, your questions have to be in-depth. They have to gain insight, perspective into the core understanding or whatever you're trying to understand. Now, you'd be best prepared if you understood more about your topic so you can ask more in-depth questions. That's how we usually efficiently engage in critical thinking. Now that we have a basic understanding of critical thinking, I want to move this conversation to a more seasoned subject matter expert. Ooh. I must be hello? Moshi? Hey, it's nice what you called. All right, I'll see you then, Dodd. All right, duty calls. And so, our journey begins. Walking down the hallways of Building 4487, we will encounter various curious characters, such as Usman, interning here at 4487. And I asked him a few questions about how he engages in critical thinking within his work.
Well, you look at what's important in the ConOps. You make a list, for example, the stakeholder NGOs are important and their ground rules and assumptions. Here it's operating the environment, that's pretty important. Why are you even making the system if you want to convince someone and, the system itself? So I took those 5 main things and I developed them into questions. A what for what the system can do, a where for where the system operates, a why for why it's important, a when for the timeline, and a who for the stakeholders and their needs.
Well, we're here at Todd's place, and what do you know? Todd is a pretty cool person, as all people at NASA are. He's working on a simple project to allow astronauts to take pictures up in space. It seems to be a very difficult problem to solve, but Todd's got it all under cover. Todd is the Assistant Division Chief for ES-10, and he'll be helping us understand the nuances in critical thinking.
All right, Todd, how's it going?
It's going great.
So, I came to you here today to talk about critical thinking, and I'd like to know how you use critical thinking in systems engineering.
So, critical thinking, I think of it as a structured way to make decisions. You really want to be able to have a logical and unbiased decision, because everyone's got their pre-ideas of something. You know, let's say something went wrong on an experiment or something, and you might have your own ideas about it, but you need to make sure that your pre-ideas are kept separate. First, you have to figure out what you're actually trying to understand.
That's good.
What the problem is, and then you need to figure out what your approach is. So what kind of data do I need? Who do I need to ask? Who has the kinds of data that I need? Go gather the data. Then you need to develop a model of what the issue, problem, question that you're trying to have. It could be a physical model, it could be a mathematical model, it could be just a conceptual model. Take that data that you've collected and analyze it using that model, looking at it to say, if you had something go wrong, here's the data in this. This is how the physics work. And then look at that. And then from that, you get, then this is what determined your answer to your problem.
And what areas do you find yourself asking most questions in system engineering?
So often it's early in a project when you're in conceptual phase and you're doing trade studies kind of things, like we could have we could have a rover with 4 wheels or 6 wheels, and you're trying to figure out what's the best thing. And again, you might have in your mind, I like one with 4 wheels, but then you have to look at what is it do I need to drive over? What is what's the cost of it? Where does it have to fit? How much does it weigh? Putting an extra 2 wheels on it, is that worth the extra cost and weight? Or maybe it is. And so you have to be unbiased and look at it from that standpoint.
So being unbiased plays a big part in asking the right questions, you think?
Right, and it's hard because everyone lives in their own mind, and so it's. But you have to be purposeful in that, and you have to be able to recognize your own biases. And so it's like, I like a 6-wheel rover. You have to say, that's just me thinking that, and I really need the data to tell me that what is it I need, and only pick a 6-wheel rover if that's what the data says that you need to have, and it is worth the resources to develop it.
Todd, I want to ask you one last question, and this is for the viewers. Do you have a unique way or a unique approach of trying to understand a difficult or hard concept? What do you use to break down something in your line of work? Is there a method?
Not really.
Not really?
But it depends a lot on experience, knowing when is it appropriate to do in-depth critical thinking and when is it not. So if you're in a space mission, where time is really critical, and something comes up, you may have 10 seconds to make your decision. And so, and it could be a big decision. And so you need to, understand the time frame, or it could be, you have an hour or something. And so you're not going to, it could be a big question that you need critical thinking. This is really important. And so you have to set your approach knowing what your time frame is. It's like, I only have, 10 minutes, and I've got to come back with whether we, abort the mission or not, kind of thing. And so you have to, what could, in your mind very quickly, you need to think of what data can I get in that time frame, what questions can I have answered, and you can't go in depth, so you're going to have to, suddenly get very very important things really quickly. So that, and you have to look at the importance and criticality of that, and that sort of is how you approach, the depth and breadth of the critical thinking process.
Well, thank you, Ty,
Well, thank you.
for your insight. It was really great hearing you talk about these things. I believe it will be important for the audience back at home.
Thank you.
And this is where we conclude our critical thinking video. It's been nice having you on this journey, and I would like to conclude with some points. Critical thinking simply is just asking for correct questions. The what, when, why, they're all just questions to get to a core solution or to figure out that underlying message of your bigger picture of your concept you're trying to understand.